is a sweet potato.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today it's the start of a video series. It is about redesigning a drawing I made before and then turning it into a print. The second video will be carving it and the third video will be printing, because there are a few things about color mixing that I wanted to talk about with you. Today is about the redesigning process and I hope you enjoy the video.
Today I decided to grab another one of my Inktober drawings, this one. I think I've told you before that I really wanted to remake this and explore the concept a little bit further. I really liked the pose and I really like the pose, basically. The pose and the idea, but I have to say that I much preferred this one, this tiny sketch, way more than the version I did for Inktober, mostly because I don't like the way I drew the face. And I don't like the way I drew the plants in a way that it feels like she is wearing a costume instead of them growing out from her. And as you can see, I have a bunch of references around me, but I actually really want to make something from this and this. Okay, so I'm going to be using a bunch of red pencils because that's the color I prefer to sketch this kind of thing. And I'm going to be using the sketchbook I usually use to plan out prints. For instance, the sleeping girl that you can see on my Gumroad. I just wanted to take this one out for you to see, but I'm not going to be using this one as a reference. I'm going to be using these as reference because it's easier to separate myself from this version if I'm not looking directly at it while I draw the new version. And another thing I want to do is occupy as much as possible of the page because I want to print. I want to carve in a linoleum that is A4, so the size of this page, and I want to occupy as much as possible with quite a few details. It's a little bit of an ambitious project in terms of carving, but I'm really excited because I bought a new gouge and it is actually extremely tight. I don't think you can see the tip very well, but it is a very tiny gouge and I'm really happy about it, and I'm going to be carving with it and I'm very happy, and you can tell how much I love my gouges. So let's get it. This, I forgot to tell you, but I am currently using the sun as my primary light source for this video, for these videos, for basically all my videos, because the studio lights are so expensive. I wanted to let you know that before I start, because there will probably be some pretty drastic light fluctuations. I've already decided that I like the pose, and I really like the fact that she has a pretty arched back, but basically I want to keep the pose the same. I really like the arched back, I really like the way I drew her legs there. Especially in the tiny sketch, I added some sort of belly because we have bellies. People have bellies and bellies are cute. And I like bellies because they're fluffy. And I don't want her to be just a very slim girl because it makes no sense for her to be a slim girl. She doesn't need to be super fat either. I just want her to be like a regular person. I need to do her arm a little bit better, maybe study a little bit of arm anatomy because I don't know arm anatomy. It looks too big for her. Maybe like this. And I want to add Yeah, I think here would be more like this, and then the shoulder, maybe like this. This looks so strange. Can you tell I haven't been studying that much anatomy? I should be. And in terms of girls, I wasn't practicing this area where the armpit and the boob connect, because that's a very important aspect that works very different in women and men. I think I like the way I drew the body here. I still need to figure out this area. The hands will require probably a cringy picture of myself. I really want her to be holding the sapling. I think it makes sense and I think it looks nice. I like saplings, they're cute. I don't want her to have feet because I want her to have roots instead of feet. I think it will look nicer and I think it will make more sense. Instead of having roots on her back and then the trees like I had in this one, I don't want these roots here or the roots like from the trees. I don't want to put trees because when you add trees like this, it makes her look huge and I'm not sure if I want that. Before I think about that, I want to add roots to the feet or instead of feet. That's what I'm going to do first. I think I want her leg to be bent. So over here, it's like I know that I want to have her leg bent and then the back leg I want to have her straight maybe? I'm not sure. Maybe I need to change the angle of the back leg so that she is with her leg slightly forward. I think I like that. Yeah, I like the leg like this, the back leg. I don't necessarily want to give her like a pretty butt because pretty butts aren't always real and I want her body to be real. I really want to give her a really nice and big nose because I like big noses and I like to draw them big. And here. And what I want to do from here is give her roots. Make something more like this maybe. So it's easier to talk about it with the thing in front of me. But yeah, it is a book about plants and trees and stuff. Here we go. This is the one I wanted to show you. Can you see this very thin part? I really want the roots on her legs to finish in this type of part that has some sort of hairs. So over here you have, it kind of looks like a hairy leg and I think that makes perfect sense. So as you can see, I really want to have very tiny hairs over here as if it was almost like a hairy leg, and then I want split ones, and I actually really want to make some sort of design with the roots to serve as a frame for the drawing because I have a few sketchbooks I really want to print on and I don't want to have her just float, and I think it is way more interesting to have her roots and her plants be part of the frame or to break the frame, because I was thinking maybe a black frame like this. Yeah, so this inside part be printed frame directly on the paper. So she would be here, for instance, and then the roots would do something like this. And then I want to have some leaves breaking the... It would make sense to have some leaves breaking the frame or some roots breaking the frame. Does this make any sense? Or maybe it could be fun to, instead of having this weird ass frame, have like this is the sheet of paper and then you have her, and instead of having a frame you have the roots and the leaves framing her. I want the roots to be very intricate and very detailed, and I want her other leg to be the same, but I want it to curve in like an S shape. I don't want it to be curving out the same way this one is. I want you to be able to see the curve of her back. I also really want to have a lot of plants on her back, almost as if they were growing from the other side of her. I'm going to scrap this one. I don't really like the way the border works, and I could maybe add a tiny bit of that kind of border just where you don't have things framing, so it's not as heavy and as constricting. Or maybe I just won't add any of that and just use the roots. I'm going to use a piece of transfer paper. I really like to use this to draw on top of what I have already drawn, to add more things and be able to see if it works or not. So instead of redrawing everything, I just use a bit of transfer paper, and then I can make it like a window kind of thing. I'm going to use a blue pencil just to make sure, I think it's blue, to make sure you can see the difference between what is on the transfer paper and what is underneath. You can see it is a very transparent one, so it will be easier to distinguish if I use a blue pencil. So what I was thinking was to have like a pilea plant maybe, and have another one there, and have tiny leaves, and then have big leaves, and have very, very big leaves. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it just doesn't make much sense because of the way of the structure of the plant. Or I could add some spider plants maybe, and that would cover the pilea up, not the leaves but the tiny part. It's hard to speak in English when you know the word in Portuguese and not English. I also wanted to add some fern leaves, so maybe that could be a really nice one, or maybe not. I'm not sure. I am really excited about this project, but it is really, really hard to think about the way you want things to be laid out. Like, I decided on the roots, but what about everything else? Some sweet potato. But I also wanted to incorporate these plants that look almost like like weeds in the garden. And I still want you to be able to see her underneath all the plants and all the leaves. I do like the sweet potato ones, but I don't think they fit here around the legs. Oh, it would be really cool around her knee or her elbow, because it kind of looks like a sweet potato. Or maybe on her butt, because sweet potato and a butt are not that far from each other. And I feel like I'm just saying nonsense. Maybe I'm going to have to make a voiceover for this, because I don't think I'm making any sense. I think I'm going to make a fern coming from here, because ferns are cute and I think they look nicer when they feel like they are coming out somewhere else. I like the way it looks when it comes from there. I would add more leaves
though. I still want you to be able to see that she doesn't have a flat belly. Yeah, I want more leaves on this fern, but so far I'm really happy with. But I also want something coming from the knee fold, because I think it makes more sense to have things coming out of places. I want her to have underarm, like armpit hair, but have the plants coming out of places, and then on her back choose a few plants that will look good to make a border, sort of like the sweet potato over here that you can see in frame here, sort of like the sweet potato I have over here, or maybe like ivy or something like that, because I think it will look really cool to have the roots making a part of the frame and then leaves making the other. And then on places where you can actually see her skin, like the legs or even the side of her hip or her arms or anything, I want to add like moss or weeds, or plants that usually are not necessarily desired, but they appear because they appear, and they're actually really pretty often. I think I'm going to add, dandelions, maybe tiny, this type of flower. If I like the way it looks on this tracing paper, I'm going to transfer over here, and then I'm going to draw with ink, and then I'm going to transfer it to the blue. Here's the last one. Over here is what I just did, and I want to do just some annotations just to make sure I know what I want to change. I want this one like this because that's what I want to do, and then I want to add stuff on surfaces. I'm not sure if this makes any sense for you, but it makes sense for me, so I'm going with it. I know this looks kind of strange, makes barely any sense, but it helps me, so I'm going to use the blue pencil again because I don't want to confuse myself. So this time I know that I want a fern coming out of here, and I actually really want it to be tall and to have a lot of leaves. I know this may not make much sense, but pumpkins have these very, very large leaves that are very pretty, and I want to add leaves like that somewhere. I don't want to cover all of her, but I really want to be able to add these spirally things that pumpkin leaves have, or pumpkin, not leaves, the other parts. These, like this part over here between leaves. What is it called? English. I don't know. I don't know the name of that in English, but I don't think I know. Maybe I do. I just don't remember. But I think I like the way these look. I was thinking maybe also adding some mushrooms, maybe. And I also want to add the sweet potato, like I said before, so maybe it could be coming from here, from her shoulder, almost as if it was an ivy, and have it come out of her back, and then that way I can frame it with the leaves. I'm going to be using a graphite pencil just to get it to transfer easier, because I like the way this is going and I want to transfer it over here. So I copied onto the transfer paper the parts I didn't want to lose. I have the tracing paper and I have traced it onto the other side, so I hate using transfer paper with graphite, but that's the way we usually use it. So what I do is, instead of tracing this 3 to 4 times, I use a bone folder, which is 100 times faster and easier.
As you probably cannot see, you already transferred what was on the transfer paper onto this page. I don't know if you can see, you probably can't. And now I'm going to sketch over this to make sure I have everything I need to then ink the drawing, to make sure I know how I want the end result to look like. And now that I know what space I have in terms of the block, because this page is roughly the size of the block, I think I'm ready to start making the frame. So basically I can take the tiny parts of the roots and fill up this space to create the frame. And an important thing about this part of the process is that you are not just tracing over what you already drew, you are using it as a reference to draw it again. So that means everything will be a little bit more refined than it was in the earlier sketch. It's almost like a second sketch layer when you're using drawing software on a computer. It's roughly the same as a second sketch layer because it allows you to keep refining and refining and refining again things you are not actually sure how they are supposed to look. So it's actually a pretty nice way, even for other things that don't need to be transferred as much. It's actually pretty nice to make studies on transfer paper. Since it is transparent, you can always use it as layers and like do a sketch, then put one of these on top and glue it down, sketch it again on top, then glue another one on top and sketch it again. And when you flip through them, you can see the differences between the several stages of sketches. So I find that very interesting to do and actually pretty helpful to make sure you are keeping what you want to keep, you are getting rid of what you don't need or want to keep. And for instance, here on the arm, I should be using reference. I know this is not correct. Like, the goal here is not perfection, it's blends. So I don't think it's that much of a big deal if something is not necessarily accurate, you know? I really want to get on to the carving. I'm getting really excited about that. Now I'm pretty happy with the sketch. I think I'm going to ink it with fountain pen, chiseled marker. I'm not even sure if I should use the fountain pen because I don't want to get too many tiny details. Maybe I'm just going to use this one. Since I'm going to be doing this in linoleum, I am taking the risk of losing detail when I'm carving, so I have to be very careful when I'm inking to make sure I'm not just, putting detail that won't be able to be put into the final print. I pulled this out with pliers, and then I filled it up after washing and drying it. I filled it up with sketch ink. I think it is suitable for fountain pens, so it's also what I use in here. And yeah, it's overall great ink and I really like it. So yeah, that's what I've been using. finished inking it, and I think I have a few things I want to change, but I'm going to change them when I transfer this to the block, and that's fairly easy to do. One thing I really want to change is this area, because I think her back is not arched the way I wanted. It kind of looks like she has a humpback, but she doesn't have a butt, so I want to move this a little bit so she doesn't look so stiff. And then another thing I want to do is fill this one in, because, and I'm going to do this right away, because it makes no sense for the hair to... When I transfer this to the block, I may do some changes to her nose and mouth and chin. I'm pretty happy with the eyes and eyebrows and stuff. I may add something to the ear, but mostly I'm pretty happy with it. The only two things I want to change are the back and a little bit of the mouth-nose area. But that is something that I'm going to correct directly on the block. I don't want to trace this anymore to any other thing. So yeah, I think it's ready to be transferred, and I'm actually really happy with the way this has come out. I'm a little bit unsure about... I'm not very happy with these, but let's see. If I'm not happy with the way I carve this, I'll just carve them away, so it's not that hard to change if I don't like it.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget there's a link in the description for my Gumroad, where you can find the pre-order for the print we were preparing today. The print isn't ready yet, but that's why pre-orders exist. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next week for the carving process. Bye!